once upon a time in a world of magic, light, and darkness.
The sun was high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the Duelist Academy in Sabron. The sound of clashing swords and heavy breathing filled the air as students moved through their training drills, their bodies glistening with sweat. Among them, Chika and Meisu stood side by side, focused and determined. Chika's movements were sharp and precise as she practiced her footwork, her body moving in a seamless rhythm. Each lunge, retreat, and advance was executed with the grace of someone who had trained diligently. Meisu, beside her, matched her stride for stride, their eyes meeting every so often with encouraging glances. As the training session drew to a close, the two girls found themselves seated halfway up the long flight of stone steps that led to one of Sabron's ancient temples. The steps offered a perfect view of the bustling city below, with the Jinnet River winding its way through the heart of Sabron like a lifeline. They sat in silence for a while, sipping water and catching their breath, their bodies sore but their spirits high. Meisu glanced over at Chika, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "So, did you have a sweetheart back home?" she asked suddenly, her tone light, but the question probing. Chika nearly choked on her water, her cheeks flushing a deep red. What? She stammered, completely caught off guard. No, I didn't. I mean, I've never." She trailed off, flustered. Meisu raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Not ever." She pressed, her tone gentle but insistent. Chika shook her head, her embarrassment evident. "I was always busy training or helping my family. There wasn't really time for anything else," she admitted, a hint of sadness creeping into her voice as she mentioned her family. Meisu's expression softened as she noticed the change in Chika's demeanor. "Your family must have been really important to you," she said quietly. Chika nodded, her eyes growing distant. "Yeah, especially my little brother. He was so full of energy, always getting into trouble." Her voice cracked slightly and she bit her lip, trying to hold back the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Meisu reached out, giving Chika's arm a comforting squeeze. "You miss him a lot, don't you?" she asked softly. Chika nodded again, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Every day." There was a brief silence between them, filled only by the distant sounds of the city below. Meisu leaned back, staring up at the sky, a wistful smile on her lips. "I had a sweetheart back in my village," she said, her voice carrying a note of fondness. Chika turned to her, eyes wide with surprise. "Really? What was he like?" Meisu's smile grew a little mischievous as she described him. He had this beautiful, earthy skin and long, curly, dark hair. He always wore these ridiculous red leggings and white boots, like he was trying to make a statement or something. She laughed softly at the memory. "That's why I wear red, you know. It reminds me of him." Chika blinked, taken aback by the sudden intimacy of the conversation. "Does he know about you wearing red for him? I mean..." Meisu shrugged, her eyes sparkling with a mix of amusement and sadness. "I don't know, he's off training to be a dragon hunter now. We're both chasing dreams, I guess." Chika's eyes widened in admiration. "Dragon hunting, that's incredible. Do you think you'll get married someday?" Meisu's smile faltered slightly, and she looked down at her hands. "I don't know," she said quietly. "We're both on our own paths right now. Who knows where they'll they'll lead us. She hesitated, then added with a hint of melancholy, the night runkle doesn't always know where its next meal will come from. Chika tilted her head, confused. The night runkle. Meisu shook her head quickly. I meant the morning raiden, of course. Just a silly old saying.
Before Chika could respond, a shadow fell over them. They looked up to see a bald, bearded man standing at the top of the steps, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes, sharp and penetrating, watched them with an unreadable expression. They scrambled to their feet, snapping to attention and giving a respectful salute. "Master Vanni," they chorused, their voices filled with a mixture of respect and trepidation. Master Vanni's stern face twitched, as if suppressing a smile. "Have you had enough rest then?" he asked, his tone gruff but not unkind. Meisu glanced at Chika, then back at Master Vanni. "We thought training was over for the day, Master." Vanni's laughter boomed down the steps, startling a flock of birds from a nearby tree. "Training is never over," he said, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "It's happening all the time. Even now, what you see, what you think, what you feel, it's all training." Meisu shifted nervously under his gaze. "Yes, Master." Vanni nodded, satisfied. "Good Meisu, I want you to head to the market and run 3 laps through every street without stepping on anyone's wares, feet, or garbage." Meisu's jaw dropped. "Master, that's impossible." "Currently, perhaps," Vanni agreed with a slight smile. "But with training, nothing is impossible. Off you go." Meisu glanced at Chika, her expression a mix of disbelief and resignation. With a sigh, she saluted and took off up the steps, her footsteps echoing as she disappeared over the top. Chika moved to follow, but Vanni held up a hand, stopping her. "Not you, Chika." She blinked, confused. "Master." Vanni's eyes softened as he looked at her, his gaze thoughtful. "I want you to head down the steps, run along the banks of the Jinnit River until you find an abandoned temple." Chika frowned, her mind racing. "What am I supposed to do when I find it? Clean it up?" Train inside. Vanni shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. "Just look inside, observe, and then come back and tell me what you saw." Chika hesitated, then nodded, saluting once more. "Yes, Master." With that, she turned and sprinted down the steps, her heart pounding with a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the city as she ran towards the Jinnit River, her mind buzzing with questions. What would she find in the abandoned temple, and what did Master Vanni want her to see? The air was cool as she reached the riverbank, the water glinting in the fading light. She followed the river, her eyes scanning the horizon until she spotted the crumbling silhouette of an old temple, half hidden among the trees. Taking a deep breath, she made her way towards it, her pulse quickening with each step.
As she reached the entrance, she hesitated. Her hand resting on the weathered stone of the doorway, she could feel a strange energy emanating from within. A silent invitation that both intrigued and unsettled her. Steeling herself, she stepped inside, her eyes widening as they adjusted to the dim light. The interior of the temple was a ghostly remnant of what must have once been a place of worship and reverence. Vines crawled up the walls, and the floor was littered with debris and fallen leaves. A faint, otherworldly glow seemed to emanate from the cracks in the stone, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. In the center of the room stood a small, broken statue, its features worn and indistinguishable. Chika stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached out her hand to touch the statue, a soft whisper seemed to echo through the air, a voice that was both familiar and strange, speaking in a language she didn't understand. She pulled her hand back, her heart racing. What was this place? And what did it mean? Taking a step back, she glanced around the room once more, her eyes lingering on the strange markings carved into the walls. They seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly light. And as she traced them with her eyes, she felt a strange sense of recognition, as if she had seen them before, in a dream or a memory she couldn't quite grasp. Shaking her head, she turned and hurried out of the temple, her mind spinning with questions. As she ran back towards the academy, the sun dipped below the horizon, the first stars appearing in the sky. By the time she reached the top of the steps, her breath was ragged and her legs felt like lead. Master Vanni was waiting for her, his expression unreadable as he watched her approach. "Well?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. "What did you see?" Chika hesitated, her mind racing to find the right words. I saw a statue," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper, "and there were markings on the walls like writing, but I couldn't read them. It felt strange." Vanni nodded, his eyes narrowing slightly as he studied her. "And what did you feel?" Chika swallowed, her heart pounding in her chest. "It felt like something was calling to me, but I didn't know what it was saying." For a long moment, Vanni was silent, his gaze piercing as he looked at her. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You did well, Chika." She blinked, surprised. "I did?" Vanni's lips twitched into a small smile. "Yes, you listened.
That's the first step. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. Remember what you felt, what you saw. There will come a time when it will all make sense. Chika nodded, though her mind was still spinning with questions. Yes, Master. He gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze, then stepped back. Now, go and get some rest. Tomorrow we begin again. With a final salute, Chika turned and made her way back to the academy, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and curiosity. As she climbed into bed that night, her mind kept drifting back to the temple, to the strange markings on the walls, and the whispering voice that seemed to echo in her soul.